Good afternoon, and welcome to our first ever 55 and Better Virtual Expo. Today's session is entitled 5 Steps to a Successfully Stay in Your Home. My name is Al Manzi. I'm President and CEO for Prairie Mountain Media and publisher for the Greeley Tribune and the Loveland Reporter Herald. Before I turn it over to our speakers, I'd like to remind everyone on the call today that you can use the Q&A and chat features that are at the bottom of your device screen and ask questions anytime during this session. I'll accumulate the questions, and at the end I may add some, and hopefully we'll have a vibrant question and answer period when the speaker's presentation is finished. Today we're joined by Danita Nixon. She's the owner of Senior Living Advisors of Colorado. So please welcome Danita Nixon.
Good morning and happy Veterans Day to all our veterans on the call today. Thank you for joining me. Hope you find some great value in what I have to share with you today. So Yogi Berra said it best: if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. And it's the same with our golden years. We need to make a plan to determine where we want to go. The Office on Aging has done a survey that 90% of seniors 55 and above want to age in place, and yet they've done nothing to prepare for that. So our goal today is to create a trend where we start to look at aging in place options so that we can end up where we want to end up and not just someplace else. So today we will cover aging in place in general, and we will cover 5 steps to aging in place. What is aging in place? It's living in the community with some level of independence rather than in a care facility. The good news about that is that we can age in place in multiple places. We could age in place with a family member. We could age in place in a different home. If you determine that your family home that you currently live in doesn't serve you anymore, then you could change to a new home and age in place someplace else. So just because you're aging in place today where you're at doesn't mean that's where you have to age in place for the end of your life. So there's a cost that comes to aging in place. I think a lot of times people think that aging in place is free, but it's not. There's a cost that comes with staying in our homes. Of course, we have the normal expenses that we have if we have a mortgage, utilities, taxes, maintenance, and then upkeep of the home. And very few people can age in place without getting additional assistance. Home care, non-medical home care, can range from $15 to $30 an hour. And $15 an hour might be a private pay individual who would come into your home for a few hours a day. And then a corporate type home care provider, they usually start at $27, $28 an hour and usually require 2 hours of time in your home. And then also aging in place, we all need to understand that it's stressful to manage the household, to manage the personal care, to manage transportation. So, one of my things as a senior advisor is I want to make sure that people really have a big picture of the decisions they're making and understand the commitment that they're making. So some seniors, there's a tipping point where they can't afford to stay in their homes anymore. Perhaps they need too much care. And I just think it's a good idea to understand what the cost of a senior community is here in Northern Colorado. So these are just starting base prices. For independent living, you're looking at probably $1,900 a month as a start, and that's not going to include meals. Assisted living is going to start somewhere around $4,000 a month. And of course, assisted living would be all inclusive. And then skilled nursing is going to start around $7,000 a month. So again, I think it's just important to understand that if someone can't stay in their home anymore, what the potential future looks like. So one of the top barriers to aging in place is unwillingness to accept help. And if we were together in a room today, I would ask for a raise of hands of people who here have been caregivers. And my guess is that a majority of you have been caregivers. And my guess is that you've also had folks that you've cared for that have been a little bit stubborn about accepting help. And that can be a huge barrier in having someone age in place, because if they don't accept help, then there's potential for problems to happen. One situation that happened this summer is I had a family whose dad, he was 85 years old, and he insisted on continuing to do yard work. He lived with his wife and went out to trim the bushes and fell into the bushes and laid there for hours until somebody walked by and saw him. So the problem with seniors who are aging in place who will not accept help is that it often puts their well-being in distress, and then they could end up in the hospital with an injury that puts them into an assisted living facility because they haven't accepted help. So one of my requests to all of you is that we break that generational curse of being stubborn and not allowing people to help us as we age in place, that we allow folks to come and help with, the housework and the yard work, because it's critical. As we get older, our abilities decrease and our needs increase. And the only way that we can stay in our home is truly to allow people to help us. I'm sure that makes sense to all of you. So let's talk about the 5 steps to successfully and safely age in place. The first one is examine your financials. The second will be determine your desires and needs. Your third will be evaluate your home. The fourth will be assess your support and resources. And the fifth is to create an age in place plan. Now, if we were together today, you would have papers to be taking notes on, and a paper age in place plan worksheet that you could fill out. Since I'm not able to be there with you today, you will have a chance at the end of this meeting to request that information. I will mail it to you hard copy, snail mail. So you'll get a worksheet where a lot of what I'm talking about today you can put into action. So I'd encourage you just to kind of sit back and listen. Don't get overwhelmed. Just kind of take this as your first preview of the subject, and then you can order the worksheet and start working on it from home. So let's talk about examining your financials. So this is a part that I feel like most people probably have under control, but it just needs to be discussed, because I think we all would agree that your financials are the foundation for any planning. So our worksheets, we have a very in-depth monthly income worksheet that just has you list out every bit of money that you have coming in. And then we have on the worksheet your monthly expenses. We want to look at the monthly expenses that are regular, and then expenses that are surprise expenses like repairs, that type thing. We want to make sure that that's on your financials so that we can look and kind of determine, what is it costing to live in your home? And then we have discretionary funds. We're going to take your income and we're going to subtract all your expenses to include your taxes and a little bit of money put aside for repairs. And then we'll know what your discretionary funds are. And ideally, this is money that if you needed help in your home, you could tap into this money to bring somebody in to help with housekeeping or yard work so that you can age in place. And then last but not least, we want to look at assets. I encourage you to know what your assets are worth. What is your home worth? If you were to need to sell it, what is the equity in your home? Do you have insurance policies that you could turn into cash if you needed to? And then last but not least, if you have long-term care insurance, it is critical that you understand how your policy works. Every policy is different, that you know the benefits, that you know the daily rates. Do they do home care? Do they do adult daycare? I encourage you to have all that written down on your worksheet so that as things change, that you have this information at your fingertips. So step 2 is determine your desires and your physical needs. As we age, we want to put this information in writing for yourself and for your loved ones. And one of the questions I'd like people to answer is, why do you want to stay in your home? I think it's important that you write that down so that as things get tough or your family members are pressuring you to do something different, that you can communicate to them what it is about being home that's important to you. And some of the things that I've heard are things such as, I love my home. It's my sanctuary. I want to stay here till the end of my life. That's a majority of people. Then I've heard things like, I've lived in my home for 40 years. Thinking about downsizing feels overwhelming to me. I want to stay here because I'm comfortable and happy here. That makes sense too. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. But my favorite reason that people want to stay in their home is because they don't want to live with a bunch of old people in a senior community. Isn't that funny? I hear that a lot. A lot of seniors feel very young and vibrant, and their thought of moving into a senior community means that they have to live with a bunch of old people. So the question is, do you have your desires documented? Who do you want to help you make important decisions on your behalf? Financial foundational planning is extremely important to your future. Having medical and financial power of attorney in place, having a will and a trust, having advanced directives and end-of-life wishes. All of these things are really important to be able to express to your family and friends how you want these things handled. And if you don't have these documents completed, I would encourage you to make a commitment to get them done. We do have resources in Larimer County that can help you get these things done at no cost. So let's talk now about physical needs. So in order to live on your own, you have to be able to manage your activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living, or you have to be able to get help to have those things managed. It's important to consider also any medical diagnoses that you have and health conditions that you have and how they're affecting you now and how they might affect you in the long term. An example of this might be that maybe you have hip pain. That's not a medical diagnosis, but a medical condition you have. And so you have trouble bending over. So right now, maybe you get help in the yard because it's painful for you to bend over and pull the weeds. And maybe down the road, you get a higher stool in your bathroom, a toilet stool, so that you're able to get up and down easier. So these are the kinds of things we have to think about, like what's happening now and how's it affecting my life and what's happening in the future with this issue that I have. Also things like diagnoses like Alzheimer's. So like maybe right now you have a loved one with Alzheimer's and you need to remind them to take their medication. That's all the help they need right now, is just you to remind them. But as time goes on, we know their needs are going to get greater. So we have to keep this in mind when we're planning for aging in place, that we think of what's happening now and we look at how it can affect the future and what that might look like. So let's talk about activities of daily living, just so that we are on the same terms, that you know kind of what, I'm sure you've heard that term thrown around a lot. Being able to bathe and shower, continence, being able to control your bladder, dressing yourself, mobility, getting around, feeding yourself, and toiling yourself. That's getting off and on the toilet. Instrumental activities of daily living include things like housekeeping and laundry, money management and managing medications, preparing meals, shopping, transportation, and using communication devices. All those are higher levels of, they take more thought and more action to get those done. So what are your current medical diagnoses and health challenges? How are they currently affecting your activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living? These are things that we would write down on your aging in place plan, because again, we're trying to look at where we are right now and what the future potentially looks like. All right, so step 3. We're just moving through this. I'm used to having questions in the middle of all this. Step 3 is an important part of the aging in place plan. It's evaluating your home. And there's 3 things that we're going to look at while we do this: security, setup, and safety. All 3 of them are really, really important to your successfully staying in home. So the first question I always ask people is, do you feel safe in your home? There are people that don't feel safe in their home, and sometimes that's a good reason to find a new place to age in place, to move to a new home. Sometimes when a woman's lost her husband, or maybe the neighborhood has changed, but this is an important thing it's the first question: do you feel safe in your home? Do you have a peephole on your front door? Sounds like a simple thing, right? But you need to be able to look out your door and see who's out your door without opening it. Right now there's the new camera doorbells, the Ring doorbells are all the rave. And the reason being is that if you have one outside your door, then people know that you're recording what's happening on your doorstep. So if you're in a neighborhood that maybe you feel a little questionable about, getting a Ring doorbell as an option to help kind of ensure some extra safety. Also, do all your doors and windows properly lock? If not, really encourage you to get those fixed. And do you have exterior motion lights? Those will scare off somebody who has bad intentions very quickly. So the question is, what can be done to make your house more secure? Because that's really important that you feel safe in your home. Next, we have home layout. And it's surprising how many people don't think about this. Is your master bedroom on the main floor? Is there a full bath on the main floor? Now, if there's not, there's things we can do to help, make it safer to go up and down the stairs, like adding a second railing or adding a stair lift so that you can go upstairs. Sometimes people would just move their master bedroom to the office on the first floor, but for long-term aging in place, we really would like to see the master bedroom and the bath on the first floor. Is laundry on the main floor? Again, that's another one of those things that we would prefer. And if it's not, and mobility starts to become an issue, then perhaps we just hire someone to do your laundry. And then are your doorways 32 inches wide to accommodate a wheelchair or even a walker? And again, that's a big repair if that's something that needs to be done. But that's just something that helps you to know if things change and you get to where you need to be in a wheelchair, is your house going to accommodate the wheelchair? So with home layout, there are minor things we can do, and then there's major modifications, and it just really depends on your home and how much you want to invest in your home. So what modifications do you need to make your home safe for you to age in place? And last but not least, on the home front is home safety. This is probably one of the most important parts of the house. The statistics are pretty grim about falls. So 1 in 4 Americans, 65 plus, fall every year. Every 11 seconds, an older adult is treated in an emergency room for a fall. And every 19 seconds, an older adult dies from a fall. So one of the biggest issues we have in our homes is fall prevention, that we need to make sure our homes are set up so that we minimize fall risk. So do you have steps into your home or your garage? If so, we need to have either a railing put in or a grab bar to help you stabilize coming in and out. Are there throw carpets on your floor? I bet you if everybody raised their hands, how many people here have throw carpets on their floor, that you would be a majority of you. And the thing is that they're beautiful and they're functional, but if they slip, what you do is you take your foot and you push it on the throw carpet, and if it moves, then it's a fall risk. Or if the corners come up and they can trip you. So throw carpets are tricky, and as we get older, we probably need to be getting them off our floors. Do you have updated fire and carbon monoxide detectors? I was in a 90-year-old woman's home a couple months ago, and she didn't have a smoke detector in her house. There was a place on her ceiling for her smoke detector, but no smoke detector. That's a basic safety device that we should have in our homes. Also, we need to make sure that they're not outdated, and we need to change the batteries every year. Do you have motion activated night lights in your bedroom and bathroom? This is a simple safety thing that you can easily, for less than $10, put a couple motion activated night lights, so that when you get up in the middle of the night, your way is lit and you're not going to trip on something on the way to the bathroom. Are there grab bars in your bathroom near your toilet, in your shower, in your bath? If not, those are really easy to install. Do you have a safety or fall button? So there's certain people that safety and fall buttons are really good for. People who live alone. If you've ever had a fall, then your chance of having another fall is high. If you take 3 or more medications, if you have a chronic illness, these are all reasons that you would want to have a safety or a fall button. So if any of those things apply to you or someone you love, most of them are under $30 a month, and that might seem like a lot of money, but having a fall and laying on the ground for long periods of time, creates excessive problems with the body and sometimes death. So something to think about. Do you have your important information about your health on the refrigerator, your file for life? If the emergency medical technicians were called, would they have access to your important information on your refrigerator? That's a simple fix. And then are you using a pill box to manage your medications? I'm 55 and just recently realized that I can't trust myself to take my medications, that I have to have them in pill boxes. I can't remember if I've taken them. I recently had a client this summer who was not doing well, and we figured out that part of it was that she was mistaking her medications. So we got her using a pill box and eating regular meals, and she's doing really well now. So, it's just hard to remember if you've taken your medications. It's just something I really recommend that everybody at a certain age start to do. So, what modifications do you need to make your home safer? So, the next step, which is step 4, is access your support and resources. What resources do you currently have to assist you in aging in place? Who can provide transportation for you? Who can help you with a small home repair? Who can you call in an emergency? Who can pick up medication or groceries for you? It's important to have a list of these people easily accessible for you and for your loved ones, so that in the event that you need some help, that you know who are the people you can count on. And you want to talk to those people and make sure that they feel comfortable with that as well. And then also, what are community resources available to you? The one thing that I struggle with is we all want to rely on our friends and family for help. But as I spoke earlier about the importance of getting help, sometimes we put a burden on our loved ones and expect them to take care of everything on our behalf. So I'm really an advocate that as individuals, we need to look and see what other resources are available besides just our family and friends. And the community, especially, well, both Larimer and Weld County have exceptional resources. And sometimes it's just tapping into those resources to see, what's available that you would qualify for. And then if you're a veteran, or if you have limited income, both monthly income and assets, then there might be other benefits that you qualify for. So John F. Kennedy, I love this quote: "The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining," right? So the time to fix things is when they don't need to, when things aren't crazy. And the worst time to try to figure things out is when you're in the middle of a crisis. So while this aging in place plan is super simple, and maybe you're looking at this saying, well, this is all stuff I know about, it's a matter of pulling it together into one place. It's creating an age in place plan. It's putting all these documents together, your financials, so that if things change and all of a sudden you need extra money to pay for home care, you know where it's going to come from. Where in your budget could you cut out something because you've written down your budget, or where in your assets could you tap into your assets, or will your long-term care policy, kick in to help take care of home care? And your desires and needs, your age in place plan. Nobody can read your mind. Your family can't read your mind. That if you don't put these things in writing, then who knows where you'll end up. It's important that we plan our future, our aging in place, just as much as we planned our retirement. So it's important to put these things in your aging in place plan. Your home evaluation, having a safe, secure, fall-free home as much as possible is important to successfully staying in your home as long as possible. And then, figuring out who your support and resources are. That's just important because, aging in place, you're not going to be able to do it without some support. So creating that resource of who are the people I can call on and what resources can I tap in to get help, that's really critically important to aging in place. So today, like I said, if we were together, I would have a bundle of things to give you. And so I will offer you an age in place bundle to include the worksheets that you can sit down and fill out. It will have some other really cool things that will help you just kind of get things in order. They will be mailed to you through US snail mail. If you have other questions about in-home resources or senior living options or safety fall buttons, we provide safety fall buttons to the community. Feel free, my name and phone number and email is on the screen. I'd love to hear from you. I've been in the Loveland community for 3 years serving seniors. My husband and I produce the Thrive Local magazine for seniors. we are in the community trying to make a difference, trying to help seniors live, their best life. So I welcome questions from you. What questions do you have for me?
Danita, that was extraordinarily informative. I happen to be, not too far away from retirement, so it has real meaning for my wife and I, and I'm sure many of the people on this call are either experience it or have experienced it. So I can see what questions we have, and then we can also have a little conversation about some questions I have. So the first question is. Thanks so much. Do you want our address now? Sounds like you have a client. So, and where do you go for these resources that you've talked about?
I'm happy. So one of the things is I consider myself a resource to the community, so people can reach out to me and I can put them in touch with those resources. With COVID, things have changed a little bit and access to certain materials are harder. So people are free to call me at any time.
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges that people have is, when do you start this process? So when do you recommend that this process gets started? I know you used your quote from Kennedy, but maybe you can be a little more specific.
Well, I'm 55 and I'm starting to put my information on paper, because we don't know at what point. I have a saying that it's okay until it's not okay anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of life, right? Like we're humming along and then something happens. So I'd say the sooner that people, there's no time like the present to get these things on paper, really.
And when you're looking at things like houses and things like that, have you do you have any specialists or recommended specialists that you work with in terms of understanding? Because in some markets, reverse mortgages don't make a lot of sense, but in markets like ours, where we have people been in their homes for 20 or 25 years and they're paid off, and they paid, a couple of $100,000 for them, and they're worth $1 million now. Reverse mortgage is a real strong option for people. Do you work with people that do that, or do you have information?
I work with people. I work with specialists, real estate specialists, mortgage specialists. Yes.
And you talked about the long-term care policies, and there's not a huge percentage of people that have those. But when do you recommend that people in their 50s and 60s still get reasonably priced long-term care policies for the husband and wife, or for one?
Long-term care policies have changed, and you'd be surprised, the generation 80 and above, a lot of them have long-term care policies. But folks like us in our 50s, there's different products out there now that are a little bit more user-friendly. The old long-term care policies, if you didn't use them, you lose them. So, which is, not great, because people spend a lot of money paying into them, and then if they don't use them, that money's gone. So there's new products. So that's a question for a financial advisor. But yes, I recommend that we all have something in place to help, cover the cost of aging.
There's a question here. It says, how can I assess my needs when I can't see for myself that I need help? It's a good question.
That's a great question. That's when you call someone like me and I come spend some time with you. I'm a senior living advisor. I'm not a care manager. I don't charge for my time. So I'm happy to come sit down with people and see where they're at, and see how we can get them situated.
When you work with people who have multiple floor homes, do you actually have specialists that help them if they decide, hey, it really does make more sense for me to go to a one floor option, that they can work with?
Yes, I'm guessing you're talking about more like a real estate agent to help them find their.
Yeah, somebody, but well, a lot of people don't know and they don't trust people. So, if you have people that you work with, that might be something good for our audience to know.
Absolutely, yes. I have one of the real estate agents I work with is certified with working with seniors, and I look for people that are like-minded to me, that are more concerned about people than themselves, that are out in the community giving and doing for seniors.
And I'm assuming you have a lot of resources that you can work with for things like yard work and house cleaning and things like that, which are everybody feels like they want to continue those things. They feel like, oh, I love working in my garden, and I love cleaning my gutters, and I love painting my garage. But those become significantly more dangerous as your balance gets diminished, and your ability and your strength gets diminished, and you find yourself in trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it. No, absolutely. I'm happy to be a resource for any type of need. Absolutely.
Let's see, I think we have another question here. Is there usually a long wait period to get in an independent care facility?
So that's a tricky question because things change, right? So
Yeah.
Independent living, usually there's not wait lists to get in. It's usually assisted living or memory care. So it just depends on where you want to go, whether there's a waiting list or not. And then things change quickly. People come and go quickly, right, into a community. So there's not always, sometimes. Now, affordable housing is something that there's crazy wait lists for, like
Yeah.
4 years, 5 years. That's
Yeah, we live in
affordable housing. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Colorado is not the most senior friendly state. States like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, they provide housing units from the state that are available. We don't really have that in Colorado, and it makes it much more difficult. We had a question about mother-in-law apartments and what your opinion is of having those.
I think that's a good idea if you can live with your mother-in-law. My husband.
No thanks. No thanks.
No. Oh, I love my in-laws. I like that idea because I think people having their own space is good. When people start to talk about bringing loved ones into their home and they don't have like a separate space for the loved ones, there's some challenges to that people have to be really honest about. I get calls from seniors all the time that moved in with their kids and it's not working out. But if you have your own space, like a mother-in-law suite, I think that's a great way to go, because then you still have separate lives,
Yeah, and it's interesting how COVID has changed our lives too, where we didn't really think about food delivery or any type of deliveries to our homes in the past. Now we can pretty much get anything delivered to our home, and so that's kind of changed the dynamic for people for senior livers, people living in their senior years, knowing that they can get almost anything delivered, any service provided in their homes now, and you don't have to go out.
Right. Well, Al, I'd like to bring up another point you just made me think about too, just about home sharing. Another thing it's on the checklist, but I didn't talk about it today, is that there's also an option for people to home share with people they don't know. I get calls from seniors all the time, women who are widowed or widows. Yeah, they're widows, who don't have huge incomes that would benefit from living in a home with somebody else. So that's another option for people for aging in places, to open their home up to another senior.
And sorry about that. One of the challenges of working from home.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that live in this house, along with cats and dogs and kids.
Right.
I don't have any other specific questions. Your presentation was so fantastic. You didn't mention in the financials a will and testament and all of the things that people should have in place. But I'm assuming that's part of what you would recommend in the financials as well.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit in your desires. Putting your desires down is the will.
Oh, okay.
And I might have missed saying it because, yeah, it's just hard to do this.
Or maybe I didn't hear it.
That's okay. Yeah, no, those are critical, because that's communicating your desires to your family, right? It's putting things in order. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm gonna check, see if there are any other questions, folks. If you have any other questions, Let's see, how do we sign up to receive info from? I'm assuming, Matt, you mean info from her organization? That was a question from Matt Flood, who's one of our
Yeah.
directors of this program.
So they can email me at Danita, DANITA at SLACOLO.com, or call my office at 970-541-4592. And they can just, we'll get their information and send out a packet to them.
I'll tell you, I think I hadn't heard of your specific service before. And I think your service is absolutely critical, and will become more and more critical, as we all know that the 65 and older demographic will be the fastest growing demographic for many, many years in our country. So people are going to be faced with these situations in all different levels of financial security. So I really urge people to think about using your service. We also have a question: does a power of attorney work after I die so I can get my money then?
That's a
good one. Well, everybody would like that. You can't take it with you.
Oh, can't do it.
But again, I really encourage people to look you up, because your information was your presentation was fantastic. Your information was critical, and it will continue to grow and change as society and needs continue to grow and change. So we appreciate you taking the time today to let us know more about your services and how they work, and we're thankful for you giving us all this great information. So I thank all of our participants today, and we'll see you again, same time, same channel tomorrow.
Thanks, Al. Thanks,
Thank you
Matt.
so much, Danita. Bye-bye.